Hey, this is Kirk Nugent. Today we're going to do some basic financial education, financial 101. Did you know that there's a distinct difference between what the poor, the middle class, and the wealthy buy on payday? When I found this information out, it blew my mind. I've been studying this stuff for about 20 years, reading a lot of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad books. And once you understand this information, you'll understand why the poor gets poorer, the rich gets richer, and the middle class are basically stressed out and on prescription drugs. So I'm going to share the information with you, and if you take it and use the information, it will change your life dramatically. The first thing that we're going to need to understand are some basic financial terms. Income, in the way that I'm going to be using it, is money that you bring in. Expenses, money that you spend. Assets is something that pays you, and I know that's a little tricky one because most time we think of assets as something we own, but that's not necessarily the case. An asset, in the way that I was taught, is something that pays you, something that brings in money. And a lot of people think, well, isn't my house an asset? Well, it could be, but normally when you have a mortgage, that mortgage is on the bank's bookkeeping book as an asset. So if it's on the bank's book as an asset, chances are it's a liability on your books. It's only become an asset if you're making money, if it's paying you money. Let's say you have a home and the mortgage on the home is $1,000 per month, but you're renting this home out for $1,200 a month. Then it's bringing you an asset of $200 per month. So an asset is something that pays you. And the liability is things that cost you. Okay, so to make sure that we're clear and we're all on the same page, let's go over it one more time. Income is money that you make. Expense, money that you spend. Asset is something that pays you, and liabilities are things that cost you. Now, let us take a look at what poor people buy on payday. And basically what poor people spend their money on is what I call stuff. Just if it's out there, they gotta have it. The brand new Jordans, they need the big electronics. Incidentally, poor people, if you go into someone's home that's absolutely poor, poor people have huge television sets. Never a library. They don't invest in books. So poor people buy stuff. They gotta have the Dallas Cowboy jersey, the New York Giants, whatever is in. They need a new iPod. They need the iPhone. They need stuff. The Timberland boots, you name it, they have a lot of stuff. Christmas, they're spending $2,000, $3,000 on stuff that has no value, stuff that doesn't appreciate, and stuff that after they buy it and take it home, it actually loses value. So poor people spend their money on inexpensive things that they don't need to survive. They just buy a lot of stuff because they like having it. Whenever you watch hoarders, that's stuff. That's what you see in a hoarder's house, stuff. So it's a mindset, I believe, where poor people invest more in things that have absolutely no value. It depreciates, and whatever the trend, whatever the television tell them is popular, and they need to get this stuff so they can look and seem like they have some money. They buy into that mindset, and that's exactly what they purchase on payday. In this particular example, our poor person is bringing in $900 per week. Once they get that paycheck for $900 per week, the majority of that check goes back out the door in expenses. They have to pay cable, light bill, rent, mortgage, whatever it is. And that goes back out the door. And the rest that's left over, if there's anything left over, they use it to buy more stuff, more Timberland boots, more Dallas Cowboy t-shirts, whatever it is. They buy more stuff. The unfortunate part is their income never produced more income for them. So over the years, all they have is they've accumulated a lot of stuff, but no asset. And as the years go by, they struggle more and more. By the time they're into their 40s, they're really struggling because they've been working for 20 years. They're getting tired, and they haven't produced the type of lifestyle that they're looking to produce. Unfortunately, the poor never take the time to educate themselves on the difference between liabilities and the difference between assets. And I'm not knocking this group in any way, because this group is where I was for a long time, and the majority of us, because we didn't know any better. That's how we were educated. You get your money at the end of the week. You work very hard, and you got to reward yourself. You got to buy some stuff. You got to go to the club. You got to have some fun. So once they start doing some sort of financial education, again, which is what Robert Kiyosaki is an advocate of, once they start studying how money works, how do you create wealth, then they can absolutely turn their life around in a very short period of time. There are basically two reasons why people don't create wealth. Well, actually three. One might be that they don't want to create wealth. But for the people who do want to create wealth, the two reasons why they don't is one, lack of discipline, and two, lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge meaning they have no idea how to go about creating wealth. They're working in a system, maybe they're trading time for money, and they have no idea. They don't have the knowledge that trading time for money does not work. Or two, they have the knowledge, but they never apply themselves and apply the knowledge. They know I have to save a part of my paycheck every week if I want to get out of this system, but they lack the discipline to put that part away. So the two reasons why we don't create wealth, lack of discipline and lack of knowledge. Now, Zig Ziglar once said, the major cause of failure and unhappiness is trading what we want the most for what we want in the moment. That again comes down to lack of discipline. What we want the most is financial independence, but what we want in the moment is the new big screen television. So we sacrifice what we want the most, the financial independence, and we go out and get this big screen, which is taken away from our ability to create wealth. Let's keep moving forward and take a look at what the middle class buy on payday. The middle class is the group that society mistakenly thinks are the rich, but they're not. They typically earn a six-figure income, and what they buy on payday are liabilities. Remember our definition of liabilities? Liabilities are things that cost you. They go out, they buy expensive vacation, they buy cars, they buy jewelry, and they buy things that cost them. Because they're constantly buying liabilities, this one habit alone keeps the middle class prisoners of the middle class. So here's a typical scenario for the middle class. The middle class usually makes a nice chunk of money per month. So let's just assume they're earning $10,000 for the month. So they bring in $10,000 for the month, and maybe $6,000 might go out the expense column, paying for the bills, the mortgage, all the other stuff. They have $4,000 left over, and immediately they're thinking, well, you know what? I need to upgrade the car. I need to get a new BMW, new Audi. So they take another $3,000, put down on the car, and then now they have a new expense per month. The car payment is now $1,000 plus insurance. So they're taking in a large sum of money, but they're always buying new liabilities. They're getting a boat, a motorcycle, they're getting more credit card, let's go on vacation, and they keep making more money, keep putting more money on the liability column, which is things that cost you, and then it goes out the expense column. So they earn a decent chunk of money, but it all goes back out being spent on liabilities and expenses. So as you can see by this example, as their income rises, so does their expense, because they're always buying, they're always rewarding, they're always upgrading. But again, the middle class as well typically do not educate themselves on the difference between liabilities and assets. They figure they're making a pretty good sum of money, so they're wealthy and they can always sustain what they're doing, but not true. Sooner or later, they run into that brick road called, or that brick wall rather, called reality. One of the greatest liabilities that the poor and middle class struggle with as well is that just about all of their income is dependent on their own effort. Basically, they're trading their time for money. They've educated themselves to a level where they can use the skill or the education that they have to trade their time for money. Let us take a look at an attorney. An attorney went to school for several years, studied, knows the law, and now he's commanding a large sum of money per hour. However, if he's not in front of a client or working with a client, he's not earning any money. The minute he goes to bed, his earning ability stops. And that's a great liability. J. Paul Getty, one of the richest men ever lived in America, he said, I would rather earn 1% of 100 people's effort than 100% of mine. Now, earlier we said that the reason why most people never create wealth is either because of lack of knowledge or of lack of discipline. Now, here's where we get into lack of knowledge. The middle class and the poor have no idea that trading their time for money is by far the most effective way to create poverty. They have no idea about that. While wealthy people know that trading your time for money always creates poverty and never creates wealth, so they never or they seldom trade their time for money. So the reality for the poor and the middle class is that once they are off the clock, once they leave the job, once they have punched out, their ability to create wealth has absolutely ceased. So they're in essence trading their time for money. And there are never enough hours in the day that you could trade your time for money. So here's an example. Let's assume that the average person is working for $10 an hour and they're working 8 hours per day. At the end of the day, they have earned $80. At the end of the week, 40 hours, $400. If they cease to show up for work for one day, they're deducted for that day's pay. However, that is not the case for the wealthy or for the owner of the corporation with whom they're employed. Now, let us take a look at the magic of leveraging time for money and how that creates wealth and creates wealth very, very quickly. Let's assume in this example in figure A, the dude in the little blue box in the red circle, the chubby guy, he's the owner of the corporation. Now, he has 1,000 employees and they're all working 8 hours per day. So he's getting 8 hours times 1,000 employees. He's actually getting 8,000 hours of money earning time out of his day, while you who are trading your time for money is only getting 8 hours. So as you can see, even if he leaves a job and he's on vacation or he's someplace sleeping, you're still working, you're still earning, he's still leveraging your time for money. He doesn't need to be there to earn. When he leaves, there's someone there of the 1,000 people that he's hired who's there working, making money, earning in money, creating wealth. In figure B, it's the same thing, but figure B example is network marketing, where you start a company or you're part of a company, a part of a program, and you tell one person who tells one person who goes around and tells two people who tell two people, and before you know it, you're again in a system that's leveraging time for money, and now you're well on your way to creating wealth. Now, let us take a look at what the wealthy buy on payday. The wealthy immediately buy assets that creates cash, and they use that cash to buy more assets, to create more cash, to buy more assets, to create more cash. Basically, what the wealthy invest in is one, financial education. They buy businesses, they buy real estate, they buy investment. But the first thing is they get financial education. They understand, and they understand without a shadow of a doubt how money works, and they make that work for them. The poor and the middle class doesn't understand how money works, so they go around and they complain that this is unfair. Look what they did to me. I worked so hard for so many years. But again, creating wealth is not a mystery. It's a formula. If you understand the knowledge, if you have the knowledge and you apply yourself with the discipline, there's absolutely no reason why you cannot start where you are and create wealth for yourself starting today. Those of you who think education is expensive, you should see the cost of ignorance, because the cost of not knowing, lack of knowledge, is what costing people nowadays their marriages. It's what costing people their house. It's what's costing the car. It's what's causing stress, lack of sleep at night. So it really makes sense to take the time to understand what is it that you can do to change your system financially, to change your reality. Because again, once you know and once you decide to apply yourself, there are many systems out there right now in place that you can get involved in and start changing your financial reality immediately. It's just you have the knowledge, so that's not an excuse anymore to say, well, oh my God, I didn't know. So the next thing is, do you have the discipline? Because the discipline will take you from where you are to where you want to be. There's a saying that says, the man who lives without discipline dies without dignity. I'm sure this is true for the woman as well, but that's neither here nor there. Here's a simple example of how someone started with very little and used this formula to create wealth. They could start by purchasing a vending machine, place that vending machine in an area where people are purchasing whatever's in the vending machine, use the money that they make from there to get a second vending machine and put it in another area. Use that money to get a third, a fourth, and so on and so forth. So these are just simple systems that's in place. If you ever read any of Robert Kiyosaki books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he has a lot of different systems in there. One system right now that a lot of people are using is network marketing. And people are very adverse to network marketing. They're saying, well, that's a pyramid scheme and that doesn't work. Chances are That's coming from a lack of knowledge. They never took the time to investigate and learn how the system works. So immediately they dismissed it because all they know is trading their time for money. And someone come and show them a system. Well, here you can leverage your time for money. They've never heard of that before. They have no understanding how it works. So immediately they dismiss it and they live in their ignorance. Here are some of the habits of the wealthy. One, they do their research. They understand financial planning, they understand financial terms, and they're constant student. The poor and the middle class, once they're out of school, they're finished learning. They say the average American never pick up a book after high school. The average American reads maybe one book a year, if that much, once they finish school, if it's not mandatory reading. And if they do read a book, it's usually some romance novel. Nothing to move them towards their goal of financial independence. You want to start getting in the idea of studying and understand how money works, how wealth is created, what the rich people are doing. The Secret of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker is a good book. Anything by Robert Kiyosaki, I highly recommend it because that's how I learned. I started from nothing in sheer ignorance and lack of discipline, and I started studying. How is it that some people are going around and they're creating wealth out of thin air while most people are working 40, 50, 60, sometimes 70 hours per week and they're still struggling? Well, it's the knowledge. Once you have the knowledge, which I'm giving you today, all you need to do is to create the discipline, and you could go from, again, where you are to where you want to be in a very short period of time. Okay, so let us recap. On payday, poor people buy stuff that it's not even that expensive, but they just accumulate a lot of it. It makes them feel good emotionally. In their mind, they're creating some sort of wealth, or they have the appearance that they're wealthy. They have the new Jordans, the new iPhone, whatever is out on the market. They have to have the latest technology, the latest look, the latest style, the latest fashion. Doesn't create any wealth, but it keeps the image going for them. So it I guess, has them believing that they're on their way to wealth, I guess. The middle class. What the middle class buy on payday? The middle class, they earn a lot more than the poor. However, their spending habits are not much better than the poor. They're investing in liabilities, a new car, the new truck, the vacation. Just, again, stuff that makes them feel good emotionally, but it's not creating any wealth, and it's not ending the cycle of working. They're both trading their time for money, and there's no end out. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. On the other hand, the wealthy, on payday, they invest first in knowledge, financial knowledge, to understand how the system works. How can I make this system work for me? They invest in knowledge, financial education. They also invest in businesses in which they're using other people's time and they're leveraging time for money, as opposed to trading time for money. They're also investing in assets and using those assets to create more business, to create more wealth, to create more assets, and the cycle never ends. Alrighty, we've come to the end of this presentation. Hopefully it was as informative for you as it was for me when I first discovered the information. My intention is to give you the information so now you have the knowledge. You will be aware that whatever decisions you make, whether you decide to act on the information or not, at least now you're aware of where your actions are taking you and what's going to be the results from the system that you're working with. So if you want to create another lifestyle, you have to get into a different system. If you keep on doing the same thing over and over, you're just going to produce the same results. So now you're forewarned, which means you're forearmed. I'll see you at the top.